Hi. The annual budget is soon to be announced by the Honorable Finance Minister. And for the last 3 years, when we were struggling with COVID, and the initial strategy was to survive and to give the support to the MSME and the needy sectors in the economy, I think now the focus has shifted to larger growth, and that's where this budget is very important, because as a budget, the budget also gives an insight and the roadmap in terms of what the government is thinking on the overall growth prospect. I think this budget will be very important as we move towards the 5 trillion economy mark, and we want to reach there as a country. And the Indian economy is doing very well. In fact, Indian economy is one of the shining stars globally. If you talk about what's happening in Europe and what's happening in US, talking about recession, war, and all those things. Our economy to that extent is doing very well. Now, considering that I work very closely with startups and with VC firms and investors, and with the new economy, with EV sector and the new emerging sector, what are the expectations the emerging sectors, the startups, or the investors would have from this budget is something which I want to focus in this video. I think number one is in terms of capital gains, even though I believe that the government should provide some incentive in terms of capital gains, especially on startups. However, at this point of time, there is disparity in terms of how do you tax a capital gain which is arise from listed equity vis-a-vis from non-listed equity. And interestingly, non-listed equity will have more risk element, because as an investor, they invest in a company which is non-listed, wherein the liquidity is far-sighted, and there is no option to go and sell off the shares quickly in the open market. However, in our country at this point of time, capital gain, long-term capital gain on listed equity is only 10%, whereas on non-listed equities 20%, which kind of demotivates investors in investing into smaller companies and startups. So I think the government should at least bring in parity, because the risk element for investing in startups or in non-listed companies much more compared to investing in a listed company. I think one more point which I want to address upon is in terms of the ESOP. Even though government in 2020 brought in and deferred the TDS element on the ESOP to up to 5 years. However, there are two riders. One was that the employee has to stay with the company, and second is in terms of the overall exit as such. So I think what the government should think about is making it in a broad perspective and giving it a larger exemption, because ESOP is one very critical tool which is in the hands of startups, and also for smaller companies more so, if they want to retain quality employees and they want to retain talent. So I think an employee at this point of time, the tax is paid on the allocation of shares. I think that rider needs to be removed, those two riders, and give some relaxation in terms of the ESOP taxation. We also need to bring in clarity in terms of how the operating expenses of an AIF which needs to be taxed. Very recently, tribunal had held that there would be indirect taxes on these operational expenses. Then I think the government needs to broad base the profit linked active incentives to more sectors, to see that the kind of benefit which the government saw from couple of sectors, be it SMEs, semiconductor sector, or in terms of chip manufacturing, those needs to be expanded to other sectors. There are other clarity which government needs to bring in on equalization levy, on special economic presence, on in terms of digitalizing taxation on the digital companies. So I think there is a link which wherein we have written a blog in terms of what all we expect, and there is a link below, and you can read the complete blog in terms of what our expectation is. This video is summarized in a sense that these are the top 3-4 things which we feel are very critical for startup growth and for entrepreneurs in our country, because if we really want to reach 5 trillion, we need to have more and more people scaling and employing people. So I think with this, I would say thanks. Do read our complete article and post your comment in terms of what your three things which you want from government.